Chapter 5288. Leo waved his hand, and an ancient talisman appeared, shaking heaven and earth. It was the first time Kit and the others had seen this kind of talisman. While they were curious, they couldn't bear the pressure and retreated. This is called the Soul Capture Talisman. Leo looked at the ancient talisman floating in the air, and his expression became extremely excited. With this, that soul power is mine. It can only be mine. He reached out and pointed. Whong! The ancient talisman surged out ripples, and a strange power went straight to the sky. This power turned into a palm in the sky. Between heaven and earth, the ancient power was shaking. The palm grabbed at the void. Boom! The void shattered, and a black soul light was directly grabbed out. This is that soul power. Kit and the others opened their eyes wide, looking at this scene in shock. This power had always been a legend, and no one had truly obtained it, and no one had even seen it. Unexpectedly, it appeared this time. After this soul power was captured, it began to struggle. However, the ancient talisman's power firmly locked onto it, making it unable to escape. Leo looked at that soul power and sneered, "You are mine." The soul power was still struggling. "It's useless, you can't escape at all. Just obediently wait for me to refine you." Leo walked forward, trying to refine that soul power. The soul power's frequency of struggling slowed down, and it was unknown if it had accepted its fate. Yes, just like that. Leo reached out his hand, ready to summon this power. With this power, in the future, he would have the chance to become an immortal soul, reigning supreme. Suddenly, the power trembled, releasing a strong light. The entire Pure Land also began to shake, as if the world was about to collapse. Everyone could clearly feel it. Kit and the others nearby lost their balance and fell to the ground one by one. This is... Leo's expression changed slightly. Between heaven and earth, countless soul powers appeared. These soul powers appeared from the sky and then fell like raindrops. One of them reached out his hand, and the soul power fell into his palm, disappearing in the next moment. When the soul power entered his body, his eyes immediately lit up. Such pure soul power! He shouted excitedly. Then he immediately sat cross-legged and began to refine the soul power that fell on his body. Seeing this, Kit and the others all sat down cross-legged. Damn it! Leo was enraged. He shouted at the heaven and earth soul power in the sky. These are all mine. How dare you squander them? However, after sensing that the soul power aura didn't show any signs of weakening, his expression eased slightly. With a wave of his hand, he prepared to retrieve this strand of soul power. He suddenly realized that the power of the ancient talisman was no longer under his control. He was stunned and found it hard to believe. Then he seemed to have thought of something and said in surprise, "Could it be that the test has already begun?" He knew a little about the soul power in the Pure Land. Finding them was only the first step. The next step was to pass the test. Only by passing the test would one be able to completely refine it. That's fine too. I don't believe that anyone can compete with me in this place. Leo also sat down cross-legged and began to refine the soul force falling from above. It had to be said that this soul power was extremely pure, much purer than the soul power obtained from killing the ancestral beast. Regardless of whether this was a test or not, just the soul power alone was a great opportunity for him. Zichin and the others were refining resources. The spoils of war this time were enough for Vader and the other two to break through. Hum, hum, hum. The three of them didn't disappoint and broke through one after another. At this point, their realms had all reached the 9th level of the spiritual spell realm, only one step away from the spell annihilation realm. The three of them were extremely excited and bowed to Zichin to thank him. If it wasn't for Zichin, it was obviously impossible for them to break through so quickly. The four of them continued to go deeper. Not long after, the world suddenly shook. Like a huge earthquake, The mountain peak in the distance collapsed and rocks rolled down. Vader and the other two's expressions changed drastically as they looked around, thinking that danger had appeared. Chen looked up at the sky. He sensed the abnormality in the world coming from the vault of heaven. Just as his soul power was exploring where the abnormality came from, a soul power light rain suddenly fell from the sky. The light rain fell on his body and caused ripples. Sensing the energy within, his expression changed slightly. What pure soul power! When he turned his head again, he saw that Vader and the others had already sat down and started to cultivate again. Chen shook his head but didn't stop them. However, he was very curious as to why there was so much soul power in the world. Was it an illusion? Chen sensed for a moment and didn't find anything unusual. The soul power landed on his body and entered his sea of consciousness, but it didn't turn into pure energy. Instead, it fused with his soul power. This situation was like the meeting of water and a sponge. The sponge absorbed the water drop by drop, but there was no change. Chen didn't understand. What was going on? After absorbing the soul power, why didn't his soul power grow stronger? He looked at the other three. After absorbing the light rain, their soul power had improved greatly. Vader and the other two improved rapidly and didn't have the same doubts as Chen. They were frantically absorbing the pure soul power between heaven and earth. Could it be because of their realms? Perhaps their realms were too low, which was why there was such an obvious change. Hence, he retreated into the distance and found an empty place. Then he released his soul power and began to devour the soul light rain falling from heaven and earth. Buzz! With Chen as the center, a vortex appeared. At first, it was only 30 feet. All the soul light rain that fell within this range was swept into the vortex. Then the vortex began to expand. 90 feet, 100 feet, 200 feet. Soon, it expanded to 100 feet. The soul light rain within 100 feet entered Chen's body through the vortex. The surging soul power was completely absorbed by Chen, but there was still no reaction. His soul power didn't grow at all. Chen was a little puzzled. Even if he refined a piece of soul crystal, he would still feel it. Why was it like this now? Buzz! The vortex continued to expand. Soon, it reached a range of 500 feet. At this moment, the soul power gathered by the vortex was like a column of water that spiraled into Chen's body. The soul power contained in it was extremely pure and surging. After entering Chen's sea of consciousness, it quickly fused with his soul, but there was still no feeling of it growing stronger. I don't believe it. Chen gritted his teeth and the vortex expanded again. After reaching a distance of 3,000 feet, Chen began to feel strained. At this moment, the soul power that entered his body was like a water dragon. Buzz! 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 On Chen's side, he still didn't feel anything special. In the direction of Vader and the other two, there was a strange aura again. The three of them had broken through to the spell Destroyer Realm one after another. At the same time, their soul power had undergone a qualitative transformation. In just a moment, they had broken through to the next realm. It was enough to see how extraordinary this soul light rain was. When the three of them finished breaking through, they looked ahead. All of them were shocked. Within a radius of 10,000 feet, the soul light rain between heaven and earth gathered and turned into soul dragons that flew towards Chen. This method of absorption was almost plundering. Not long ago, they saw Lord Chen's massacre. Chapter 5289. His Excellency's speed of absorbing the soul light rain was close to plundering, which made one blush with shame. See that this is His Excellency. Vader was all smiles. Looking at His Excellency's absorption speed, it wouldn't be long before he could break through. His Excellency at 4th Stage Realm was already so powerful. 5th Stage Realm would naturally be even better. By then, when they entered the depths, it would naturally be a smooth journey. The three of them who had broken through stood silently by the side and waited. Time started to pass. The trio's expressions changed from the initial anticipation to puzzlement. The scene in front was still huge, and the vortex's boundary was also expanding. But His Excellency had not broken through yet. Lan Shan muttered, "Is breaking through from 4th stage realm to 5th stage realm a huge hurdle?" The originally confident Vader's expression changed slightly. "Perhaps His Excellency is different. Let's wait a little longer." This wait lasted until they had advanced to 2nd stage of Dharma Extermination Realm. And this was under the condition that they hadn't refined enough to break through. After breaking through, they realized that absorbing the soul energy no longer had any effect. But His Excellency still hadn't broken through. This made the trio very puzzled. Suddenly, the vortex surrounding Zi Qin disappeared. He stopped absorbing. The trio immediately went up, and Vader asked in astonishment, "His Excellency has broken through?" Zi Qin shook his head, "Not yet." Looking at the trio and sensing their realm aura, he smiled. "Congratulations!" The trio had advanced to 2nd stage of Dharma Extermination Realm. Why hasn't His Excellency broken through? Vader was puzzled. Zi Qin shook his head. He didn't understand why either. The amount of soul energy he had refined was actually a lot, but after entering his consciousness, it was like a clay ox entering the sea, disappearing without a trace. Whereas in other places, the leaders who had come here had all advanced in succession. 8th stage of Dharma Extermination Realm. "Come on, let's go in and take a look." Zi Chen could vaguely sense that the root of all these was in the depths. Under the circumstances where he couldn't break through, he had to go in and take a look. While moving forward, Zi Chen started to sense his own soul energy. After refining so much energy, it wasn't completely useless. He could clearly sense that his soul energy had some changes. It was more condensed. When they moved forward again, it was completely unobstructed. All the ancestral beasts seemed to have disappeared. The leaders who had come here had broken through one after another and advanced towards the depths. When they arrived, Leo was still refining his soul force. When they saw the shackled soul power in the sky, their expressions changed. Then, one by one, they charged forward madly. Right at this moment, a terrifying aura was released from Leo's body. He had also made a breakthrough in his cultivation at a critical moment. 8th stage Realm Luo Ao's soul power surged around him like a tidal wave, giving off a dangerous feeling. Immediately, several people subconsciously stopped. When the others saw this, they stopped as well. "Everyone, I used an ancient talisman to extract this soul power." Leo said indifferently, "So it's mine." "This kind of opportunity is only yours if you get it. Right now, it's still in the sky, so everyone has the right to fight for it." One of them said in a deep voice. Naturally, they knew who Leonard was. Back then, Leonard had introduced himself, so the astrals were relatively restrained. "That's right. Everyone has the right to compete here." The others spoke one after another, unwilling to fall out with Leonard at this time. "You talk too much." Right at this moment, an indifferent voice sounded, only to see several mantis demons rushing forward. They would not give Leo face. If this soul power was obtained by Leo, it would definitely be a huge loss to the mantis demons. Courting death. A cold glint flashed past Leo's eyes. His soul power surged like an arrow, shooting towards the mantis demons across the sky. The mantis demons who were in the air for a short moment all felt a pain in their heads and fell from the sky. When the Astrals leaders saw this, their expressions changed. Was this the strength of a reserve Dharma soul? Every reserve Dharma soul who passed the assessment had extraordinary soul power. At this moment, they had witnessed it. But this was obviously not the end, but the beginning. Next, they truly witnessed the power of a reserve Dharma soul. His hands formed seals, and an array appeared. An array that enveloped a radius of 5,000 feet appeared. releasing a vast aura. Die! A mantis demon who landed charged forward. Leonard glanced at him indifferently and uttered a single word. Bang! A ray of light descended from the array in the sky. The light turned into a small array in front of the mantis demon. The mantis demon crashed into it. A powerful force suddenly erupted from the array. Bang! The mantis demon was sent flying. In midair, a line of blood streaked across. More mantis demons rushed forward. The light from the array in the sky descended again and turned into a small array, sending the nearby mantis demons flying. The mantis demons who were sent flying were either injured or coughing up blood. Leo stood under the array and blocked the attacks of 8 mantis demons with his own strength. These mantis demons were all in the 8th stage. Everyone in the distance was extremely shocked. Was this the strength of a Dharma soul? In this case, who could be his match? Sir, what should we do now? Among the crowd, an Astral's cultivator asked. Beside him was a young man who was a martial artist. The young man said in a deep voice, he is very cunning. He only stopped those mantis demons and did not engage in a life and death battle. This way, his consumption will be much lower and he will be able to maintain full strength. Looking up at the soul light, a cold glint flashed past the young man's eyes. Things were much more troublesome than he had imagined. Suddenly, there was an earth-shaking movement in front of them. The mantis demons had used a powerful method. Demonic shadows appeared from all directions and pressured Leo at the same time. Leo snorted coldly, and his hands started to form seals. The array in the sky began to rotate, and every time it rotated, the patterns would intertwine, and there would be a terrifying aura surging out. Following that, several rays of light flew out like arrows leaving the bow and went straight for the mantis demons. Along with the sound of popping, those demonic shadows disappeared one by one. At this moment, Leo was in high spirits and looked invincible. Kit and the others were extremely excited. Following such a lord, why would they worry about not having opportunities? All of you retreat quickly. Otherwise, don't blame me for killing you. Leo's eyes became sharp for the first time. Terrifying soul power flew out from Leo's mind and surged in the surroundings. The mantis demons were all injured, and when they saw Leo's aura surging, none of them dared to rush forward. They were mortal enemies with the Astrals. Once everyone was injured, those who were watching the show might attack them. Who would have thought that such a person would come from the Astrals this time? Seeing that the mantis demons no longer went forward, Leo smiled faintly and then looked up at the soul power above. The test has been passed. You are mine. As he reached out, he hooked his hand and the soul power descended from the sky and flew towards him. Seeing this, everyone's expression changed again and they wanted to go forward and fight for it. However, the array was still floating in the sky and protecting Leo. If they wanted to go up, they would have to resist the array. Haha, it's mine. Leo laughed and grabbed the heaven and earth soul light in his hand. Chapter 5290. When Zichin arrived, he happened to see that the soul power had found its owner. His expression changed slightly, and he felt very regretful. At this moment, the others also felt the same as Zichin. The youth in the distance had unwillingness in his eyes. He wanted to go forward and snatch it. It's mine. It can only be mine. Leonard's hearty laughter sounded in the world. Do you think you're worthy of fighting with me? The soul power fell into his hands. At this moment, Leonard was really full of confidence. Congratulations, my lord! Kit and the others hurriedly cupped their fists. Leonard became more and more proud. Buzz! The power of the ancient talisman dissipated, and the soul light disappeared in his palm. He planned to refine this soul light. Suddenly, he let out a scream and hurriedly let go of his hand. There was a hint of fear in his eyes. The soul light in his hand flew out again and flew into the sky again. Everyone was stunned, not understanding what had happened. Damn it! Luno shouted angrily. He was the only one who knew the reason. The energy contained in the soul light was too vast. If he insisted on refining it, what awaited him would definitely be his body exploding, and he would die. The most important thing now was to think of a way to leave with that energy. But how could he leave? Standing under the formation, he turned around and glanced at the spirit tribe. Everyone, this soul power is abnormally terrifying. If you rashly refine it, your body will explode. If you protect me after I seal it, I will definitely reward you greatly. As soon as these words came out, everyone's expressions changed. No wonder Leonard suddenly gave up. But why should they help Leonard? You think I'll explode just because you say so? At this moment, a person walked out. Let me try. If there's really danger, I'll lend you a hand. The person who walked out was the young martial artist. When everyone heard this, their expressions began to change. Obviously, no one was willing to miss such an opportunity. Okay, but you have to have the strength to come over. Leonard glanced at the young man. He seemed very confident. Obviously, he did not think that other than him, the others could succeed. The corners of the young man's mouth curled into a smile. Okay. After saying that, he strode forward. When the others saw this, they stopped and waited. The young man came to the edge of the formation. Back then, the hybrid demons were attacked here. He smiled slightly and walked straight forward. Buzz! A beam of light descended from the sky, heading straight for the young man. The light turned into a formation in front of him, and a terrifying aura surged out. The young man clenched his fist and punched out. Boom! The formation collapsed, and his body retreated several feet. Seeing this, Leo sneered and said, If you don't have the strength, don't go forward, lest you embarrass yourself. The young man glanced at Leonard and said, You're right. He continued forward, but this time his gaze was much sharper. As a martial law master, it was natural for him to feel angry when he was underestimated. He stepped forward. They were nearing the edge. The formation descended from the sky again. The young man sneered, Petty tricks. With that, he activated the core of True Body. At his heart, a brilliant light bloomed. It was still a single punch. Boom! The formation collapsed, but he did not move at all. He was completely unharmed. This scene caused the expressions of the crowd to change once again. Core of the True Body! Someone cried out in surprise. How could someone at the spell annihilation realm cultivate the core of the True Body? Not only was the spirit race shocked, but even the hybrid demons were shocked. The hybrid demons' bodies were much stronger than the spirit races, but none of the people present had cultivated the core of the True Body. However, this spirit race member actually had the core of the True Body. You're a martial law master? Luo's expression became solemn. As a reserved Dharma soul, he naturally knew about martial law masters. The young man was angry, but he did not respond and continued forward. Is there anyone else? Continue. After using a powerful force, he was naturally not afraid of Leonard. Leonard's expression began to change. Clearly, he did not expect that there would be another martial law master here. He thought that it was already very special with him here. Zi-Chin stood in the distance. When he saw this scene, his expression changed slightly. This was the second existence that he had seen with the core of the True Body. The first was himself. After a moment of silence, Leonard did not continue to attack. Although martial law masters were powerful, in the Tao of Soul, they were clearly inferior to Dharma souls. He maintained a certain distance from the young man to prevent him from sneaking an attack. What's your name? Edmund. The young man walked forward and waved his hand toward the sky. The soul of heaven and earth fell and disappeared into his palm. In the next moment, the confident Edmund suddenly had a look of fear on his face. Like a frightened rabbit, he swung his hand and jumped back. The soul of heaven and earth returned to the sky. He had failed. The soul of heaven and earth was too powerful. If he tried to refine it by force, he would die. How was it? Leonard looked at Edmund. Edmund shook his head. It's indeed terrifying. If I tried to refine it by force, my body would explode. When the others heard this, their expressions became complicated. Were they going to miss out on such a great opportunity? Everyone, I'll take the soul of heaven and earth this time. Today, I, Leonard, owe each of you a favor. If you have any trouble in the future, you can find me at the Dharma Soul Alliance. I'll definitely repay the favor today. A favor from a future Dharma soul was still important. This made the ugly expressions of many leaders relax. Why don't I give it a try? Just as everyone was silently contemplating the matter, a voice suddenly sounded from behind. It was Ziqin. Since he was here, there was no reason for him not to give it a try. Moreover, he hadn't broken through yet, so he wanted to try refining it, just in case his tolerance was stronger. Whoever knew that when Leonard saw Ziqin, he didn't give him the chance, but said coldly, "Kill him." When Ziqin heard that, he was dissatisfied. "I say, what do you mean? If the others can try, why can't I?" Leonard asked coldly, "Where's Luotua?" Ziqin replied, "How would I know?" "Humph." Leonard looked at those leaders and said, "Everyone kill him. Just a mere fourth-stage realm cultivator, and he still wants to join in the fun. He's simply seeking death." When the other leaders heard that, their gazes towards Ziqin turned unfriendly. Following that, several auras locked onto Ziqin. Sensing these auras locking onto him, Ziqin was furious. "Who are you looking down on? Who's at the fourth stage realm of Dharma destruction? I'm at the fifth stage realm, all right?" He released his aura. He was indeed at the fifth stage realm. Back then, when Ziqin obtained the Heaven Dharma crystal, and after refining it, the surging energy within it allowed Ziqin to break through 2 realms consecutively. But along the way, Ziqin had intentionally suppressed it and only used his 4th stage realm's strength in battle. Even a 5th stage realm cultivator must die. One of the leaders gave a sinister smile and charged towards Ziqin directly. He was at the 8th stage realm, and his terrifying aura instantly engulfed the surroundings. His murderous intent locked onto Ziqin tightly. Ziqin said, "Don't come over, I'll kill you. If you die, then don't blame me." "Lad, how dare you boast shamelessly in front of me? I'm going to grind your bones into dust." Being threatened by Ziqin, this leader felt extremely humiliated and insulted, so he started to berate him. He dashed towards Ziqin swiftly as his killer move was revealed. Ziqin, on the other hand, threw out a punch. Golden light sparkled. Boom! A loud boom was heard, and this leader flew backwards. Golden air waves rolled, and everywhere it passed by, the space seemed to be distorted. Bloodlines were drawn in the sky. After landing on the ground, this leader lost all signs of life. Looking at Ziqin again, his entire body was sparkling with golden light, and at his chest area, it was even more conspicuous. It was as though there was a golden gemstone embedded there, and the light was glaring. Real body core. Exclamations were heard from all directions as everyone looked at Ziqin, who was sparkling with golden light, in shock. Gravity fell on everyone, and everyone's expression changed greatly. Then, countless rays of light surged out from Ziqin's body, shooting forward like arrows. Pooh! 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 The leaders were all sent flying. But this time, Ziqin did not kill anyone. The leaders were all injured. After getting up, they all looked at Ziqin in shock. Not only did he possess the core of true body, but he also knew how to use formation seals. At this moment, they had no choice but to reevaluate Ziqin. Vader and the other 2 were extremely excited. This was their lord. The hybrid demons who had retreated far away rejoiced at their choice. One of these existences was terrifying enough, but this time there were 3 of them. If they wanted to kill them, none of them would survive. At this moment, they could only let them fight each other. Perhaps they could find an opportunity to take advantage of them. After making up their minds, the hybrid demons began to heal their injuries. Zi-Chan walked forward. These leaders no longer stopped him, nor did they dare to stop him. They had to accept Zi-Chen's mercy. Looking at Zi-Chan walking over, Leonard looked at Edmund. You all have the core of true body. It won't be a problem to suppress him. Edmund snorted. Regardless of whether he had made the promise earlier or not, he wanted to stop Zi-Chen. It was for nothing else but the core of true body, because his core of true body was not as strong as Zi-Chen's. Even now, he did not dare to say that he could kill everyone present with a single punch. There was a difference between the two. He wanted to know what the difference was. With a tap of his foot, he rushed forward. Then he triggered the core of true body. Zi-Chen's body shone with golden light as he looked at his opponent, giving him sufficient respect. He punched out. When the two fists met, it was like a sudden explosion of thunder. Terrifying airwaves spread out in all directions. Both of them retreated several meters. Following that, they collided again. Boom! 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 The forest was filled with explosions. The two of them were like two rays of light, constantly entangling and colliding. Waves after waves of airwaves rolled, carrying a terrifying aura. Other than Leonard, who was guarding the array in front, the others all retreated, because just the aftermath alone was enough to make them feel uncomfortable. How can he be so strong? Kit and the rest were unable to believe it. A fifth-stage realm Zi-Chen was actually on par with an eighth-stage realm who had the core of true body. This was not luck, it was true ability. With the last loud explosion, Edmund retreated until he reached the array. After he landed, blood spilled from the corner of his mouth. Looking at Zi-Chen, who was outside the array, he was unharmed. Your physical body is stronger than mine. Edmund opened his mouth. Zi-Chen said more or less. The two of them were 3 realms apart, but their physical strength was on par. This made Kit and the rest shocked. Edmund turned his head to look at Leonard. Join forces! He already knew the difference between him and Zi-Chen. When he said that, it immediately caused an uproar. A martial artist and Dharma soul were going to join forces against an enemy? And a low-level one at that? You martial artists can afford to lose face, but we Dharma souls can't. Leonard snorted arrogantly and then hooked his finger at Zi-Chen, making a provocative gesture. Childish. Zi-Chen walked into the range of the array. Swoosh! A ray of light fell from the sky. It was the method used to block the mantis demons. But Zi-Chen didn't even look at it as a ray of light flew out from beside him. The ray of light blossomed in front and turned into an array, blocking Leonard's attack. Another explosion sounded. Both of them were defeated. If the previous battle was a battle of physical strength, then the current battle was a battle of arrays. No matter how many rays of light fell from the sky, Zi-Chen could easily deal with them. Explosions sounded from both sides, but Zi-Chen stepped forward calmly. He didn't use his physical body, but the seal of an array. At this moment, Zi-Chen showed his powerful side to everyone again. Leonard's expression gradually became solemn. Bang! His voice was cold. The light falling from the sky turned into an array with a terrifying aura. Zi-Chen was expressionless as he continued to move forward. A seal flew out in front of him and blocked the aura. Fire! The array in the sky rotated, and countless flames poured down from above. It was vast and mighty. Blazing waves of air spread in all directions, making people's hearts palpitate. Facing such an attack, Zi-Chen didn't even raise his head. A huge array appeared above his head like a jade plate, isolating all the flames. It couldn't hurt Zi-Chen at all. Zi-Chen was approaching. Leonard's many methods were useless, and he seemed helpless. The hearts of the surrounding people shook again. Was this person comparable to a martial artist and Dharma soul? Do you see it? This is Lord Strength. Chapter 5292. Vader was very excited as he watched Zi-Chin fight Lon. Lon Shan and Ungeli were also cheering loudly. Everyone on Kit's side was dejected. This was especially true for the person who had betrayed the team. If he had known this would happen, he would not have betrayed them. Seeing that the array was ineffective, Lon started to form seals. Light flickered in front of him, and a fierce tiger appeared. Roar! The tiger roared in the forest, and the sound waves spread in all directions as if it was a real attack. Everyone's expression changed when they saw this. Edmund was secretly guessing how many punches he would need to destroy this array tiger. And how many punches would Zi-Chin need? See, Sir hasn't used any powerful moves yet. Kit's spirit was shaken when he saw this. I hope I can kill him. That traitor also silently thought in his heart. Zi-Chin did not attack. He also formed an array and chose a fair fight. The array in front of him circulated, and a fire dragon appeared. The fire dragon moved forward and fought with the fierce tiger. Dragon, tiger, fight! With a rumble, the two mutated beasts disappeared. Lon used several more arrays, but they were all neutralized by Zi-Chen's arrays. Everyone outside was shocked. After all, Lon was a future Dharma soul. Everyone could understand that he had mastered many arrays. After all, that was his specialty. However, Zi-Chen was not a Dharma soul reserve. How could he have so many arrays at his fingertips? And they were not the same. He was fighting someone 3 levels above him, but he was equally matched with Lon. It was enough to see how extraordinary Zi-Chin was. Did you see that? Vader sneered. Sir's strength is right in front of you. Sir didn't care about you before, but you think you're so great. In the past, Kit and the others had spoken very harshly, both to Lord Zi-Chin and to them. The mockery and ridicule were endless. Orlando and Lon were also adding fuel to the fire. Today's opportunity was rare, and Vader naturally would not miss it. Kit and the others could not refute at all when they saw the battle. You're courting death. These voices naturally reached Lon's ears, and a cold glint flashed in his eyes. Today, I'll show you the true power of a Dharma soul. His expression suddenly became extremely solemn. As soon as he raised his hands, an anomaly appeared between heaven and earth. The sky suddenly darkened, and black clouds began to roll. Occasionally, lightning would appear in the clouds. A formation appeared out of thin air, circulating with a destructive aura. The surging lightning in the sky became increasingly berserk, as if it had turned into a lightning snake, rolling about in the dark clouds. A suffocating pressure appeared between heaven and earth. Everyone present felt an unprecedented threat. It was as if death was approaching. Even Edmund's expression turned solemn. Zi-Chen inclined his head and stared at the sky. A familiar divine imprint appeared in his mind. Lightning gathering divine imprint. Ever since I created the Great Thunder Formation, no one has been able to survive under this formation. Leonard looked at Zi-Chin and said coldly, Now you can die. Thunder rolled down from the sky like mighty heavenly thunder, bringing with it a destructive aura. Great magic thunder formation? Zi-Chin shook his head, changed his name. Looking at the falling lightning, he no longer bothered about the name of the formation. After obtaining the inheritance of the divine imprint, Zi-Chen had too many divine imprints in his mind. Immediately he began to form seals. Light appeared in front of him, forming a formation. The aura surging from the formation was not strong, but Zi-Chin seemed to have consumed a lot of energy. His face was pale, deliberately mystifying. Leonard did not feel threatened by the formation, so he sneered. Zi-Chin took a step forward and stood on the formation. His body swayed slightly, and his face became paler. It seemed that this action consumed a lot of energy. Everyone was puzzled. Compared to the lightning gathering in the sky, Zi-Chen's formation was too inconspicuous. In the next moment, Zi Chen stretched out his hand and grabbed in front of him. It was just a feint, as if he had grabbed air. However, a change happened. A strong light suddenly shot out in all directions. A sword slowly appeared from the center of the formation and fell into Zi Chen's hand. Buzz! Zi Chen held the sword hilt and pulled out the long sword from the formation. On the sword, light shot out in all directions and countless lightning snakes swam on the surface. Leonard was stunned at first. Then his expression changed drastically when he saw the lightning on the sword light. Spirit-slaying sword. How is this possible? This formation has long disappeared. Where did you learn it? Spirit-slaying sword. Zi Chen held the sword hilt and said indifferently, "No, this is called the Immortal Vanquishing Rune." This was not a sword, but a divine imprint that appeared in the form of a sword. He raised the Immortal Vanquishing Rune high and pointed its tip at the sky. The lightning in the sky came down. It was a grand and majestic sight. It did not fall on Zi Chen, but on the Immortal Vanquishing Rune. The Immortal Vanquishing Rune did not collapse. Instead, it absorbed the lightning, and the light that burst out became brighter and brighter. Its aura also became more terrifying. It absorbed Leonard's attack. Everyone was startled, shocked beyond belief. It's time to end this. Zi Chen chopped down with one move. Buzz! The void trembled, and the lightning turned into a sword mark that went straight ahead. Edmund immediately jumped away. This sword made him feel a life-and-death crisis. The light of thunder instantly drowned Leo. Rumbles sounded. Mournful cries of agony rang out. "Ah!" Hearing Leonard scream, Kit and the others could not believe that their lord would be defeated. Legend, haha. Vader was still laughing. Suddenly, the scream turned into laughter. Ah, ha ha ha. The formation in front of Zi Chen had disappeared, and so did the Immortal Vanquishing Rune in his hand. He looked ahead with a strange expression. When the lightning dissipated, Leonard stood there and scathed. A golden bell floated above his head. The destructive power of thunder was completely blocked by the golden bell. Haha, Lord has a supreme treasure, a supreme treasure! When Kit and the others saw this, they also shouted excitedly. Previously, they were really worried that their lord would be killed by Zi Chen just like that. Vader was stunned. Lan Shan and Angeli's expressions also changed. Only then did they remember that Leonard had a supreme treasure on him. At this moment, there was a trace of worry on their faces. It seems that you have more than one incomplete formation. Under the golden bell, Leonard looked at Zi Chen and said sarcastically, "You've hidden yourself well along the way." Zi Chen was silent. He felt that this was a tricky situation. "I originally wanted to play with you, but now I've changed my mind." Leonard's hand seal changed. "Now I want you to die." In the sky, the bell rang. Clang! The destructive aura went straight for Zi Chen. Zi Chen tapped his foot, and one formation after another appeared, blocking in front of him. At the same time, he formed hand seals with both hands, and another formation appeared. However, it was useless. As the golden wave surged past, all the formations were destroyed. Bang! Zi Chen was sent flying more than 10 feet away. Dharma's soul whirled Destroyer Bell. He stared straight ahead, and a trace of blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth. Haha, you can't do it anymore, right? This time it was Kit and the others turned to laugh at Zi Chen. With the Dharma Soul World Destroyer Bell here, don't even think about living today. Let's go again. Leonard laughed sinisterly, and the golden bell vibrated again. The patterns on the bell lit up one by one, and the terrifying ripples surged again. Chapter 5293. In front of the Dharma Soul World Extinguishing Bell, Zi Chen was powerless. Bam! The power of the golden bell vibrated, and Zi Chen was sent flying for the 3rd time. Kit and the others, as though they were the masters, began to shout loudly. "Sir, kill him!" This guy hid his strength all the way. He must be up to no good. Kill him. Don't let him go. They shouted loudly, occasionally casting provocative looks at Vader and the other two, sweeping away the haze in their hearts. Edmund, who had already retreated far away, looked at Leonard's golden bell with fear in his eyes. He clearly did not expect that the other party would have such a treasure. So what if you hid it? In front of absolute power, all your hidden methods are just asking for humiliation. The golden bell hung above Leonard's head, his expression full of disdain. Ziqin stood up again, blood flowing from the corner of his mouth. He actually had many ways to deal with the current Leonard. However, these methods could not be used at the moment. Once exposed, it would definitely cause endless trouble. Take this golden bell, for example. The other party was just an imitation, while he had the real thing. However, he did not dare and could not take it out. Thus, Ziqin used the previous move again. He pulled out the immortal vanquishing rune from the array and slashed forward. Clang! The bell rang, instantly destroying the sword light. Stop struggling. It's useless. Leonard pointed to the ground. Kneel down and apologize to me, and I'll let you go. Clearly, after gaining the absolute upper hand, he began to humiliate Ziqin. That's right, quickly kneel down. Do you want to live? If you want to live, kneel down. Kneel, quickly kneel down. Kit and the others also began to shout, cheering for Leonard. The tables had turned, and they firmly believed that Leonard was the victor. Vader and the other two had ugly expressions. Vader said angrily, "If you have the ability, don't use weapons. What are you doing?" Leonard heard that and said disdainfully, "He will die even if I don't use weapons." As a Dharma soul, apart from being familiar with arrays, our strongest method is actually soul power. Next, I'll let you ignorant fools take a look. Although he said that, Leonard did not put away the golden bell. Instead, he used his soul power on top of that. His soul force was like a bolt of lightning, flying towards Ziqin. Ziqin's sea of consciousness was hit, but there was no reaction. Even if he was only in the 5th degree realm, his spirit power was not any weaker than Lao Ao's, so this level of attack naturally wouldn't be able to hurt him at all. Who would have thought that Luo Ao would continue? That was just a demonstration. The killer move is just beginning. A wisp of his soul power entered the golden bell. The golden bell vibrated. This time, the destructive aura it emitted was even more terrifying. Everyone present felt a strong sense of threat. Pooh! Ziqin was the first to bear the brunt. He coughed up blood. Speaking of which, even if the real thing was in his hands, it might not have such power. Who would have thought that an imitation would be so terrifying? I'll let you take another look. Ziqin was already being suppressed, and the outcome of the battle was clear. At this moment, Luo Ao wanted to show off his skills, and a streak of soul power flew out from his sea of consciousness. His soul power gathered in the air, forming a large bell. It looked very similar to the world-extinguishing bell. Dang! His soul power vibrated and turned into a wave that attacked Ziqin. Even the attack was the same. What is this? Feeling the destructive power in it, Ziqin was astonished. You don't even know about such a materialized spirit technique. You're really ignorant. Luo Ao's face was filled with ridicule. Ziqin was shocked. If it's just a materialization of soul power, why does it have a trace of the world-extinguishing bell's power? What do you think the world-extinguishing bell is? It contains the heaven and earth veins. It's the immortal soul race's great Tao. As long as it can be materialized, it will naturally have a trace of the great Tao. Luo Ao ridiculed. Even if I told you, a country bumpkin like you wouldn't know. This kind of thing contains the principles of heaven and earth. How can it be something that you can control? As he spoke, the golden bell, materialized from soul power, appeared once again. Luo Ao said proudly, "See, in order to materialize it, I don't know how many years I've studied before it has such power." He pointed at his feet and said arrogantly, "It's still the same sentence. Kneel down and I'll spare your life." Zichen decided to give it a try because, in terms of understanding of the Golden Bell, probably no one could surpass him. The soul power in his sea of consciousness surged, and in the next moment, a mass of soul power flew out as if it was refining a weapon, changing in front of him. Looking at Zichen's condensed soul power, Luo Ao said disdainfully, "Your soul power is not weak, but if you want to materialize the world-extinguishing bell, it's simply a dream. Do you know the veins inside? Do you know how many arrays there are inside? Do you know how they cooperate with each other?" Then Luo Ao shook his head. "I'm simply playing the lute to a cow by telling you this. You can't even figure out the appearance." As soon as he finished speaking, there was a sudden fluctuation in front of him. Buzz! Zichen's soul power spread out, and a large golden bell appeared in front of him. The golden bell floated in the air, the runes on it flickered and ripples surged. This is the world-extinguishing bell. Looking at the golden bell, everyone was stunned, because at this moment the golden bell in front of Zichen was almost exactly the same as Luo Ao's imitation. How is this possible? Even Luo Ao was shocked, and he was in disbelief. The world-extinguishing bell that Zichen materialized was the same size, and it was so lifelike that it could be mistaken for the real thing. How did he do it? Even if his soul power was strong, he had never come into contact with the world-extinguishing bell, so it was impossible for him to materialize it. There were all kinds of doubts in this matter. Maybe it's just strong on the outside but weak on the inside, Luo Ao thought silently in his heart. At this moment, Zichen began to control the manifested golden bell. Dong! A melodious bell sound rang. On the golden bell, all the veins lit up and countless divine veins shone at the same time. A destructive aura also surged out and went straight ahead. After sensing this aura, Luo Ao's face changed drastically, and his eyes were filled with shock. This kind of power was definitely not strong on the outside, but weak on the inside. He immediately controlled the imitation and launched the same attack. The terrifying energy collided with each other and continued to melt. They were actually evenly matched. How is this possible? Luo Ao lost his composure and exclaimed, "How could the power of the world-extinguishing bell that his opponent materialized be comparable to his imitation?" One had to know that his imitation was created by an expert in the world-extinguishing bell. So that's how it is. After Zichen displayed this attack, he finally understood the reason. Naturally, he was able to do what he wanted. As for the so-called world-extinguishing bell, he only needed to completely restore it. After all, he had this kind of thing with him. Dong! The bell rang for the second time, and this time more divine veins were mobilized. Like a destructive tornado, it swept forward. This is impossible. This is absolutely impossible. Luo Ao roared and activated the imitation with all his might. The melodious bell rang again. But this time, after blocking the tornado, his hair was messy, and his robe was full of cracks. He looked very miserable. "I don't believe it. Go to hell." Luo Ao roared and unleashed the strongest attack of the imitation. But it was useless. Although Zichen's imitation was a soul manifestation, it clearly showed the essence of the imitation. It blocked all the attacks. Luo Ao's strongest attack couldn't do anything to Zichen. He was defeated. He didn't want to admit it, but he had to. Let's join forces. In the end, Luo Ao asked Edmund for help. A trace of disdain flashed past the corner of Edmund's mouth. Didn't he just say that the world-extinguishing bell wanted to save face? But he still chose to join forces. If he didn't kill such an existence today, who knew how strong he would grow in the future? When Zichen heard this, he was happy. "You really don't want to give up. Since that's the case, let's have a fight." Golden light shone around him as he activated the immortal golden body. Edmund roared and charged forward. Zichen punched out. With just one punch, golden light shone. Boom! Edmund flew backward, and the sound of bones breaking could be heard. Chapter 5294. Zichen's punch directly broke Edmund's ribs. Victory and defeat were immediately decided. Edmund only possessed the core of true body, while Zichen had the immortal golden body. The two were not on the same level at all. Edmund's quick defeat was also out of Leo's expectations. He immediately activated the world extermination bell, and a melodious bell chime sounded. This time, Zichen did not resist with the soul bell. The main reason was that the consumption was too great. If both sides continued to fight, he would not be able to hold on for too long. Hence he leaped. Under the golden light shining around his body, he blocked the golden bell's attack and approached the other party. One punch. It was still one punch. The golden bell vibrated, and the ripples on the surface immediately dissipated. The golden bell began to sway, clearly becoming unstable. Boom! Another punch. This time, the golden bell's luster dimmed. It could not even fly in the air. The restrictions on the surface all disappeared. Puark! Lon below also coughed out a mouthful of blood, and his face instantly became pale. Looking at the dim golden bell, it was obvious that it could no longer protect him. Hence he quickly retreated. After Edmund's ribs were broken by one punch, he did not dare to go forward again. At this moment, the two had already given up that area. Zichen was too strong. Even if the two of them joined forces, it was not enough. The others in the distance, including those fiends who wanted to watch both sides suffer, gave up some thoughts at this moment. Zichen raised his head and looked at that soul power light. The soul power light floated quietly, releasing a faint soul power. Feeling the ancient intent within, Zichen did not hesitate and directly reached out his hand. Lon and Edmund looked at each other in the dark. If Zichen refined it at this moment, his body would definitely explode and die. Therefore, this might be an opportunity. Right at this moment, the soul power of heaven and earth fell from above and arrived in front of Zichen. Swoosh! The next moment, it entered Zichen's sea of consciousness. Zichen felt a pure and surging soul power from it. As for danger, he did not detect it. Hence, he did not hesitate and directly refined it. Buzz! The soul light shook, and a vast aura surged in all directions. Like a terrifying soul storm, it began to wreak havoc. Under this storm, no one dared to approach. Everyone retreated far away. Zichen, who was at the core of the formation, stood indifferently. He allowed the soul power to wreak havoc in his surroundings, but he did not move at all. This is impossible. Impossible! Leonard, who had retreated, immediately shouted when he saw this scene. He was all too clear on how terrifying that strand of soul force was. It was simply impossible to refine it. The slightest use of this power would cause his body to explode and die. In other words, even if he only used a trace of soul power, it would be enough to burst his sea of knowledge. However, Zichen was 3 ranks lower than him, yet he was actually refining the soul power without any life-threatening danger. It's mine, it's mine! Leonard almost lost control and roared as he charged forward. Unfortunately, the soul power storm was too terrifying, and he couldn't get close to it at all. If they insisted on going forward, they would only be torn apart by the storm. As he watched Zichen refine, he regretted his decision. If he didn't waste an ancient talisman to find that strand of soul force, Zichen wouldn't have this chance at all. On the other side, Edmund was also extremely shocked. However, he wasn't as hysterical as Leonard, because he had come into contact with it personally and knew that he could not refine it, let alone bring it away. Therefore, no matter what, this strand of soul force was not fated with him. In Zichen's perception, this strand of soul force was not much different from the previous one apart from that trace of ancient intent. The soul force that entered the sea of knowledge did not strengthen the soul force after being absorbed by the soul. It seemed to be repairing the deficiency of the soul force and filling in the gaps of the soul force. In Zichen's view, there was no difference. However, if it was seen by some insiders, they would definitely be shocked, because this meant that Zichen's soul force was on par with this heaven and earth soul force in terms of quality. Only then could it fill in the gaps. It could be said that although Zichen's soul force was not the soul force left behind from before the age of chaos, its quality was not weak at all. As time passed, the terrifying storm of soul power gradually weakened. In the end, it completely disappeared. Zichen stood there with his eyes closed. There was no change in his aura, and it was no different from before. After absorbing so much soul force, he actually did not break through the realm. Everyone felt that it was inconceivable. Could it be that he didn't succeed? Leonard, who had lost control, sobered up a little at this moment. According to Zichen's current state, he didn't look like someone who had successfully refined the heaven and earth soul force. One must know that the energy contained in that strand of soul force was simply too vast, not to mention a mere 5th stage realm. Even if it was a 9th stage realm, after refining, he should be able to break through the realm directly. Just like before, just the soul force that fell from the sky had helped him to break through the realm. But now, Zichen's aura was still the same as before. He definitely didn't refine it. Otherwise, he would have broken through the realm directly. According to the energy contained in that strand of soul force, it shouldn't have directly sent him to the 8th or 9th stage realm. Leonard was increasingly convinced of this point. Zichen has failed. As for that strand of soul force, it must be hidden. After all, it's so cunning. If it wasn't for the ancient talisman, it's impossible to find it. After thinking through this point, he was in a good mood. It seemed like no one had obtained it. Next, they just had to wait. Just at this moment, the heaven and earth suddenly started to shake. The earth split open, mountains collapsed, and cracks appeared in the sky from time to time. These were the signs that the Pure Land was about to collapse. What's going on? Everyone was stunned and didn't understand what was going on. Let's go. This place is about to collapse. Zichen couldn't be bothered to sense his own body's condition. His figure flashed, and he appeared in front of Vader and the other two. A light door opened in front of Zichen. He pulled the 3 of them and entered the light door. It's gone. The opportunity is gone. The heaven and earth soul force is gone. The Pure Land can't be maintained and is about to collapse. Damn it. There are still so many opportunities here, and they are about to disappear along with the Pure Land. There are still so many soul skills that haven't appeared. Why are they about to disappear? Damn it. The others began to curse and swear loudly. Other than that strand of soul force, there were many other opportunities here, just that they weren't as valuable as the soul force. But now, they were all gone. Now that the Pure Land was about to collapse, everyone could only leave one after another. When Leonard reached the outside, he seemed to have lost his soul. He was dispirited and listless. Kit and the others stood beside Leonard, all of them looking as if they had been hit by frost. On the other side, Vader and the other 2 were abnormally excited. After coming here, they were the ones who broke through the fastest. Now, they were already at the 2nd level of the destruction realm. Those who came out all looked at Zichen with ugly expressions. Because of Zichen, they had missed a great opportunity. At this moment, Zichen was also standing there and began to sense his own condition. It was only at this moment that an ancient aura of soul power surged out. When the people nearby sensed the soul force aura, their expressions changed drastically. The trial has ended. Everyone leave. Zichen and the other 3 stay. Chapter 5295. As soon as the sentence came out, everyone had to leave even if they didn't want to. Luen Ao stood there, gritting his teeth. This time his loss was really too great. How could he be willing to leave just like that? His expression was changing, as if he was making a decision. He seemed to be hesitant. The next moment, he gritted his teeth and made up his mind. Buzz! He disappeared. When he reappeared, he was already in front of Zichen. There was a talisman in his hand, made of paper. This was an ancient talisman from before the chaos. It was definitely a rare item. The ancient talisman was triggered and turned into a huge palm, grabbing toward the approaching Zichen. A terrifying aura surged, and the surrounding space began to distort. This scene was completely unexpected. No one could react in time. "You're courting death." The middle-aged man only had time to shout. Vader and the other two were in despair. Because the energy of the ancient talisman went straight for Zichen, it only had the effect of confining Zichen. To the others, it was a disaster. Once the destructive aura approached, it would definitely destroy the three of them. Even if the three of them were already at the second level of the law destruction realm. The middle-aged man didn't have time to make a move. At this moment, the bell rang. Clang! Golden light lingered and shone down, protecting the four of them. It was the world annihilation bell, materialized by soul power. Then, Zichen's body shone with golden light, and he threw out an immortal punch. He didn't accumulate power quickly, so his power was lacking. Boom! The fist light landed on the palm, but it didn't shake the other party. The fist light shattered, and the palm continued to move forward. The light of the golden bell immediately dissipated, and at the same time the world annihilation bell in the sky also exploded. There was no way to stop it. However, this short moment was enough for Zichen to shake the three of them out. Vader and the other two retreated. Zichen was caught by the palm. "Sir!" Vader and the other two shouted. At this moment, they finally reacted. "Haha, you'll follow me next." Luan Ao laughed proudly and prepared to escape with Zichen. Suddenly, a sharp aura soared into the sky. This was a sword light that pierced through the palm and pierced into the sky. Buzz! Cracks appeared on the palm that was imprisoning Zichen, and then it broke apart. Zichen's body swayed and collapsed to the ground. He held the slaughter spirit in his hand. "You're courting death." The middle-aged man finally arrived and struck out with his palm. With a bang, Leonard coughed up blood and was sent flying. "You dare to launch a sneak attack here? Do you want to die?" The middle-aged man stared at Leonard coldly. Luno shouted hysterically, "He stole my world soul power! I'm going to take him back to the Mage Soul Alliance." Impudent! This kind of opportunity belongs to the virtuous. The middle-aged man snorted, "When did it become yours?" "I was the one who used the ancient talisman to find the heaven and earth soul force, so it's naturally mine." Luo Ao was still shouting. "How precious is an ancient talisman? Why should the world's soul power be given to him? You were the one who found it, so why didn't you refine it?" Zichen stood up and said sarcastically, "Do you have the ability?" As soon as he finished speaking, Zichen immediately formed a seal. Buzz! The golden Buddha Fire Lotus appeared. This was to prevent Leonard from escaping. "Sir, he launched a sneak attack here. What crime is this?" Zichen looked at the middle-aged man. The middle-aged man said coldly, "Death penalty." Leonard shouted, "You dare to kill me? I'm a lost soul." The middle-aged man said disdainfully, "Not to mention that you're just a little reserve. Even if you're a true lost soul, breaking the rules here means death." "Since that's the case, then go to hell." Zichen directly stepped forward and threw a punch at Leonard. Killing intent filled the air. Leonard subconsciously took out the imitation golden bell and blocked in front of him. Unexpectedly, Zichen's fist didn't land but hovered there. After the previous battle, the World Extermination Bell's light had dimmed, and its power was much weaker than before. "Since you're so sincere, then I'll kindly accept it." Zichen didn't kill him and snatched the imitation golden bell. Sensing the soul power of Leonard's master, Zichen forcefully destroyed it. After refining that soul power, although Zichen didn't know what changes there were, the grade of his soul power had greatly improved. Destroying Leonard's recognition was not a problem at all. Puff! Leonard coughed up blood again. He had lost his connection with the imitation world extermination bell. His eyes stared at Zichin. Zichin put away the golden bell and turned to leave. Previously, he already regretted not snatching Luo's golden bell. After all, he had the real thing on him, and he would definitely use it in the future. It would be very troublesome if he suddenly took it out. Zichin knew the principle of not showing off one's wealth better than anyone else. Now that he had such an imitation on him, he could use it as a cover. If he took out the real thing next, people would probably think it was an imitation. He had to admit that Leonard had helped him a lot this time. Otherwise, if he took out the golden bell in another place, it would be troublesome. He would definitely be in trouble. There was also the Tao sword. It was it that cut open the ancient talisman. It was just that at the last moment, Zichin changed it to the slaughter spirit at the last moment. As for Leonard's life and death, Zichin didn't care. The others all left. Zichin's group of 4 stayed here, and someone led them into the room. A moment later, the middle-aged man came. The moment he saw Zichin, he said, "I didn't kill Leonard." Zichin nodded, indicating that he knew. The middle-aged man said again, "My name is Almai. I'm the person in charge here." Then he smiled again, "But this place will disappear soon, and we will also leave." Almai took out a token and said, "This is an assessment token. Take it and go to the Soul Law Alliance to participate in the assessment. If you pass, you will be a Soul Law in the future." Zichin looked at Almai. "You are from the Soul Law Alliance?" Almai said, "Yes and no. I can barely be considered half an alliance member." Zichin said, "You have seen the conflict between Leonard and me. If I go to the Soul Law Alliance, won't I be walking into a trap?" Almai said with a smile, "You don't have to worry about that. The Soul Law Alliance is very big. A mere reserve member can't reach the heavens. Moreover, the Soul Law Alliance's mission is to recruit geniuses. After you go, you might be put in an important position soon." Zichin nodded and took the token. Then Almai looked at Vader and the other 2. "As for the 3 of you, when you return to the pure land of the Alliance, there will be arrangements." The 3 of them nodded. After Almai left, Vader said, "Sir, we will go out first." The 3 of them wanted to send this good news back to the Alliance. After all, he had broken through several realms. After the 3 of them left, Zichin set up an isolation array. Then he took out the golden bell. The 2 world destruction bells floated in front of him, both shining with golden light. At first glance, there was no difference, but if one sensed carefully, they would find something unusual. That was because the imitation was made of some kind of material. On the other hand, Zichin's genuine golden bell was made from countless divine runes, so it was fundamentally different from the real one. It was precisely because he knew this that Zichin's golden bell formed by soul power was so powerful. Zichin injected a wisp of soul power into the imitation. The imitation began to glow, and it was getting stronger and stronger. Buzz! With a tremor, golden ripples fluctuated and surged in the array. Zichin directly refined this imitation. There was no difficulty. So in addition to the divine runes, there is also the power of the material. After refining, the imitation no longer had any secrets in front of him. He activated the 2 golden bells at the same time. Suddenly, a devouring force appeared on the real golden bell. A wisp of golden light was forcefully extracted from the imitation next to it and swallowed by the real one. Chapter 5296. Zichin activated the 2 golden bells at the same time, wanting to see the difference between the 2. But he didn't expect the real one to start devouring the imitation. Wisps of golden light were forcefully devoured and fused into the real one. The real one absorbed the golden light, and some of the divine runes in its depths gradually recovered. Beams of strong light were released one after another. Zi-Chin came to a realization. No wonder he felt that the real one was inferior to the imitation in Leonard's hand. It turned out that the strength of the imitation was partly due to the divine runes and partly due to the material. However, the strength of the imitation had already reached a limit and couldn't be stronger. The real one was different. There were too many divine runes inside that were sealed, as if they were sleeping and hadn't been activated. Now that it had absorbed the power of the imitation, a portion of the divine runes in the real one had begun to recover. Once all of them recovered, it would probably regain its former glory. This made Zi-Chin see hope, and he was extremely excited. All right, I'll use you from now on. Zi-Chin looked at the real one. In the future, he would treat the real one as the imitation. No one else would know anyway. Speaking of which, Zi-Chin had given the golden bells to the monk and the others in the past for them to use for self-defense. But after advancing to the Dharma Destruction realm and the monk and the others came here, Zi-Chin took them back and kept them by his side. It was the same for the Tao sword. Now, he knew the origin of the 5 golden bells. The Tao sword was naturally even more extraordinary. Unless it was a moment of life and death, he would definitely not take it out. The 2 golden bells flew directly into Zi-Chen's sea of consciousness. At this moment, a pitch-black ocean appeared in Zi-Chen's sea of consciousness. These were all soul power. It was deep, quiet, and gave off a peaceful feeling. But it could go berserk at any time. Once it went berserk, the vast ocean of soul power would be the enemy's nightmare. At this moment, the heaven and earth soul power had yet to be completely refined. It was like a black sun floating above the ocean. Wisps of soul power came down and injected into the ocean. This gentle refinement should continue for a long time. At this moment, Zi-Chen felt that his soul power had strengthened. It seemed that he was not far from breaking through. Hearing Vader's voice, Zi-Chen walked out of the room. It turned out that everyone was already preparing to leave. Without the suppression of the soul power of heaven and earth, this place would collapse. The group of 4 left the place. When they reached the entrance, they saw Curson and the others waiting for them. The hunchbacked old man was also there. Even Orlando, Kit, and the others were present. This surprised Zi-Chin. He had thought that they had already left. Especially Leo, this guy was actually here. As the 4 of them walked out, the gazes of Carson and the others fell on Zi-Chin. They had already heard about what had happened inside. Hey, come here. Orlando looked at Zi-Chin arrogantly. Zi-Chin looked at Orlando. I heard that you stole Lord Lao's World Annihilation Bell. Orlando stared at Zi-Chin and said angrily, Why are you so rude? Sir Leo is a guest invited by our alliance. Don't you know how to treat a guest? Zi-Chin was amused. I didn't kill him. Isn't that being polite? When the others heard this, their expressions changed. Impudent. Orlando was furious. In your eyes, is there still an alliance? Lord Lao is a guest of the alliance. You should treat a guest with courtesy. Hurry up and return the replica World Annihilation Bell to Lord Lao. He pointed at Zi-Chin and scolded. I don't blame you for being a country bumpkin who hasn't seen the world and doesn't know how to treat a guest. Now that I'm teaching you, you have to listen. Zi-Chin narrowed his eyes and a chill appeared. Do I need you to teach me? Hurry up and take it out, Orlando said impatiently. Also, hand over your soul power of heaven and earth. It doesn't matter if you've refined it, but you definitely haven't refined it completely. Give me the rest, lest others say that our alliance doesn't know how to treat a guest. Zi-Chin sneered. It seems that you know everything. Of course. Orlando glanced at Zi-Chin. What are you waiting for? Hurry up. Don't wait for me to make a move. Otherwise, you'll have to suffer. Why? Lord Lao got it. Vader was angry. Shut up. Orlando snorted. Impudent. Since when is it your turn to speak? You've lost the face of the alliance. I don't know if it's a loss of face, but I know that you won't live for long." Chen's eyes flashed with killing intent. "What? You want to kill me in front of so many people?" Orlando glared at Chen. "Isn't it enough that you killed Speck? Now you want to kill me?" He pointed at Chen again. "I'll lend you 10 times the courage. Let's see if you dare to kill me. Let me tell you, dog, if you kill me, there will be no place for you in the Alliance in the future. Without the protection of the Alliance, a person like you can only die." After saying that, Orlando was so angry that he spat on the ground. "Dog, don't you see who saved your dog life? If it weren't for the protection of our Alliance, would you have survived until now? Do you think that you're superior just because you have the sole power of heaven and earth? Do you want to devour your master? Let me tell you, in front of the Alliance, you're still worse than a dog." Chen took a deep breath. "Although I don't know why you're seeking death like this. Or perhaps it's because you know a lot but don't know the most important part. But that doesn't matter. The end result will be the same. Why you still dare to." Before Orlando could finish a sentence, Chen's palm had already landed on him. A loud slap. A slap landed on Orlando's face, and immediately a clear fingerprint appeared. "You dare." Orlando held his cheek and stared at Chen angrily. Alas, before he could finish his words, he was sent flying by Chen's kick. When the others saw that, no one stepped forward. Chen approached Orlando and kicked him again. This time, he stepped on his face directly. Orlando shouted out loudly as his 8th stage realm aura exploded out. A terrifying air wave spread out in all directions. Those who were nearby all retreated. One had to admit that Orlando was really strong. Chen's body was shining with golden light. This energy wave was useless against him. Another stomp. Orlando began to scream. Only then did he realize how powerful Chen was. Chen was expressionless as he kicked him again and again, but his gaze was getting colder. There was killing intent in his eyes. "Kill me if you have the ability," Orlando roared. "You dog, if you have the ability." "Sir." When Vader heard that, his expression changed. He sensed that things were not going well. "Sir, please don't be fooled by such provocation." Alas, it was too late. Chen stomped his foot down, accompanied by a rumbling sound. The terrifying energy entered Orlando's body and destroyed his life force. He was dead. When Leonard saw this, a sinister smile appeared on his face. "Amazing. You even killed your own people. I really don't know how a hybrid demon spy like you managed to sneak into the Alliance." Chen turned his head and looked at Leonard coldly. He gave a sinister smile. Killing one is killing, so is killing two. He wanted to kill Leonard. Chapter 5297. The golden Buddha fire lotus appeared and enveloped a radius of 10,000 feet. In the absence of another breakthrough in his realm, this range had clearly increased. This proved that his soul power had become stronger. Chen had decided to kill Leonard, so he naturally wouldn't hold back. Leonard was enveloped by the array and couldn't escape. Swoosh! At the same time, the massacre spirit moved forward. Chen had never used this item in the previous battles in the trial grounds. This time he used it directly. With a poof, Leonard's chest was pierced and blood spurted out. Then a light burst out from Leonard's body and his body disappeared. When Chen approached, he only cut through the afterimage left behind by Leonard. He ran away. Embers fell from the sky. It was another ancient talisman. Only this item could escape the seal of the golden Buddha fire lotus. Chen turned his head to look at his surroundings after his attack failed. Kit and the others retreated, their eyes full of fear. Orlando was dead, and his body turned into bones. Only the law crystal was left, and all the wealth on him. The hunchbacked old man stood in the distance. He looked up at the array in the sky, and then at Chen. His eyes flashed. "Sir." Vader and the other two ran over. At this moment, they were very worried, because Zi-Chin had killed someone from the Alliance. It was different from Spec. The former wanted to kill Zi-Chin, so it was understandable that Zi-Chin killed him. However, this person was just provoking him, but Zi-Chin killed him. This was obviously against the Alliance's rules. It's fine. Zi-Chin waved his hand with a calm expression. It was indeed a little impulsive for him to kill the other party for provoking him. However, he was no longer the person who was provoked by the Alliance when he first came here. After the trial ended, everyone began to return under the lead of the hunchbacked old man. After losing the protection of Leonard and Orlando, Kit and the others were very obedient and didn't dare to say anything more. Not only did they lose their backing, but their realms were also much weaker than Vader and the other two. The young man who used to be in Vader's group was filled with regret. If he had known, he would have followed Vader no matter what. There was no danger on the way back. After witnessing Zi-Chen's strength, the crowd no longer dared to provoke him. Zi-Chen didn't know that the Alliance's internal structure had already been divided because of him. It would not be an exaggeration to say that the crowd was enraged. With someone pressuring from above, even Zhou Ho, who was at the Heaven Dharma realm, could not protect Zi-Chin, even if Zi-Chin had a reason to do so. Early in the morning, Zhou Ho went to the Alliance for a meeting. When he returned, his expression was very ugly. Do these people have pig brains? Zhou Ho smashed his favorite tea set. Hui Yin knocked on the door and entered. When he saw the fragments on the ground, he couldn't help but be stunned. How angry was he? Zhou Ho said, "Go tell Zi-Chin not to return to the Alliance for the time being." What's going on? Gray Swallow asked in confusion. Zi-Chin killed Orlando. Hearing this, Hui Yan's expression did not change much. Why didn't you let Zi-Chin come back? Gray Swallow had expected this outcome when both parties left. Naturally, one of them had to die. Zhou Ho said, "There are people at the top who are investigating this matter. Let Zi-Chin stay outside for a while and return to the Alliance after this matter has calmed down." Okay. Hui Yan did not ask about anything else. This was how the Alliance was. There were too many people at the top, and there were too many factions. However, she believed that Zhou Ho could handle this matter well. Otherwise, he would not have arranged this. They're all a bunch of pig brains. Can't they see such an obvious trap? What's a mere Dharma soul pressuring us for? Zhou Ho's expression was very ugly. When they were halfway to the Alliance, Zi-Chen saw a familiar face. He was somewhat surprised. After Hui Yan saw Zi-Chen's group, her gaze quickly swept past the crowd. As expected, she did not see Orlando. "Sister Hui Yan, why are you here?" Vader saw Hui Yan and was excited. "Did you specially come to pick us up? We've gained a lot this time." Hui Yan saw Vader, but there was no joy on her face. She quickly walked over. Seeing her expression, Vader was stunned. Zi-Chin also felt that something was wrong. After approaching, Hui Yan said, "Zi-Chin, Sir said that you can move freely during this period." Oh. Zi-Chin looked at Hui Yan. Hui Yan continued, "However, this is only temporary. Sir will take care of everything very soon." Take care of everything? You sure talk big. At this moment, a sneer sounded from behind. 5 people walked over from afar. The leader had a cold expression. "Hui Yan, how dare you? You clearly know that the Alliance wants to take him back for interrogation. Yet you dare to secretly leak information." That existence waved his hand, and the 4 people behind him immediately came forward. "Zi-Chin, you killed Orlando. We're under the Alliance's orders to take you back." The other party held up an Alliance token and said indifferently, "If you resist, kill, without mercy." The expressions of Vader and the others changed greatly. Although they knew that there might be trouble when they returned this time, they did not expect that trouble would come before they even returned. Hui Yan said to the person who came, Dang Lupu, you're talking nonsense. When I came, the Alliance did not have such an order. Humph, you still dare to question the Alliance's order? Dang Lupu waved his hand and said, "Take them down!" The 4 people came forward, releasing their auras. They were all at level 8 of the Destruction Realm. Obviously, they came prepared. The others immediately dispersed. They could not interfere in this kind of matter. The eyes of the 4 people who approached flickered with killing intent. The 2 people in front held long sabers in their hands and walked forward. Buzz! The saber light slashed horizontally with a sharp aura. How was this capturing? It was clearly killing. Zi-chan retreated and dodged the 2 people's sabers. How dare you resist? Kill him! Don't leave him alive! In the distance, Dang Lupu's eyes flashed with killing intent. Are you crazy? Zi-chen is not resisting. He's clearly dodging. It's the people you brought who want to kill Zi-chen. Hui Yan was furious. This guy was obviously distorting the truth. However, when Dang Lupu heard that, he scolded loudly. Hui Yan, don't talk nonsense. It's clearly Zi-chen who is resisting. He has no respect for the Alliance. There are so many people watching. How dare you lie? Hui Yan was so angry that he could not say a word. Dang Lupu, do you think we're all blind? Vader's face darkened. He had never seen such an arrogant person. You're distorting the truth in front of me. Of course you're blind. Dang Lupu sneered and said loudly, Zi-chen killed the innocent and disobeyed orders. In the name of the Alliance, I declare that from now on, Zi-chen is expelled from the Alliance. Zi-chen was still dodging. After hearing the other party's words, he smiled coldly. Good, very good. I don't want to stay in such an alliance. Looking at the 4 people who were filled with killing intent, he stopped retreating. You want to kill me, right? Zi-chen's eyes flashed coldly. Then die. Golden light lingered, and the immortal golden body appeared. Then, facing the 4 people, Zi-chen did not retreat a single step. He stood in the same place, and threw out 4 punches. Golden light flashed, and the 4 people who came were sent flying one after another. Their defense, under the immortal golden fist, shattered instantly. At the same time, their bones were shattered. When they landed on the ground, they were only left with 1 breath. Zi-chen, you traitor! How dare you attack the Alliance's people so ruthlessly? Now, just wait to be hunted down by the Alliance. Dang Lupu shouted. This again. Do you really think I'm a pushover? Cold light flashed, and the slaughter spirit appeared. It turned into a ray of light and went forward to finish the job. The 4 8th stage realm cultivators who were not dead were killed. Chapter 5298. It's your turn. Being stared at by Zi-chen's icy cold gaze, Dang Lupu laughed. He was so angry that he laughed. You're merely in the 5th stage realm, and you want to kill me. His face was filled with disdain. Why don't you take a piss and look at your reflection? He released his own aura, and it was actually in the 9th stage of the Decimation Realm, just 1 step away from the Heaven Realm. A tyrannical pressure instantly enveloped the surroundings. This aura caused everyone's expression to change drastically. The hunchbacked old man took a look at Dang Lupu, and following that, he looked at Zi-chen from afar, as though he was thinking of what method Zi-chen would use to deal with this 9th stage realm cultivator. After all, there was a huge disparity between the 2 of them. Hui Yan looked at Zi-chen worriedly. This time Zi-chen had killed another 4 8th stage realm cultivators, and this matter had blown up once again. Whether he could stay in the Alliance was still an unknown. Lad, do you think you're invincible after killing a few 8th stage realm cultivators? Dang Lupu said disdainfully, Let me tell you, in the Decimation Realm, the disparity between each stage is huge. 1. Energy vibrated, and a huge palm print gathered in the sky as it pressed down towards Zi-chen. When a 9th stage realm cultivator made a move, the movement was extremely huge, and the surrounding space was distorted as though it was about to be forcefully shattered. The others, who had already retreated once again, pulling apart the distance between both parties. Zi-Chun raised his head to look at the descending palm print, and the blood in his body started to boil. He wanted to try his hand at the 9th stage of the decimation realm. He tapped his feet and soared into the sky. He punched towards the sky. Infinite golden light shone as though the sun had risen into the sky, illuminating the surroundings. 5th stage realm Zi-Chun didn't show any signs of fear when facing a 9th stage realm cultivator's attack. Instead, his battle intent rose. Boom! The fist smashed onto the descending palm print, and a golden shockwave spread out in the sky. Zi-Chun's body fell towards the ground like a meteorite as it crashed onto the ground with a loud bang. The palm print in the sky also dissipated. The ground was smashed into a huge pit, and Zi-Chun walked out from it. One had to admit that 9th stage realm was indeed much stronger than 8th stage realm. Even if he had an immortal true body, he also felt strained. Speaking of which, the difference between their realms was still too great. Humph, you're already like this after taking one of my palms. If I were to give you another 10 or 8 palms, wouldn't you be crippled? Deng Lepu snorted in disdain. Then let's do it again. Zi-Chun crooked his finger at Deng Lepu. Then the two sides began to fight. Deng Lepu stood in the distance, and one powerful attack after another appeared. All kinds of dazzling and powerful attacks fell from the sky. He didn't dare to approach Zi-Chun because Zi-Chun's physical body was too strong. If the two of them came into close contact, he reckoned that Zi-Chun would be able to stun him with a single punch. Facing these attacks, Zi-Chun punched out again and again as golden light sparkled, dispersing this 9th stage realm cultivator's attacks. This was Zi-Chun's first battle against a 9th stage realm cultivator. His powerful physical body was the foundation of his undefeated streak. Everyone was stunned. There was a difference of 4 levels between them, but the two sides were actually evenly matched. At this moment, everyone's hearts couldn't help but start to speculate. What if Zi-Chun was in the 6th stage realm? What would the battle result be? But as the battle continued, Zi-Chun's energy consumption gradually increased. This was normal. After all, his realm was low. I've underestimated you. I didn't expect you to have such a strong physical body. Deng Lepu stood in the distance and looked coldly at Zi-Chun. If your realm was higher, it would be more troublesome to kill you. Luckily, your realm isn't high now. Let's stop here. I'll send you on your way. A tall giant figure appeared behind Deng Lepu. His entire body was glowing, and a terrifying aura was emitted from him. In his hand was a long saber. The long saber's aura was so terrifying that after it appeared, it stirred up the surrounding space and started to tremble. A gust of wind blew past, and everyone shivered from the cold. It was as if the aura of death was coming towards them. The hunchbacked old man's expression turned solemn. Vader and the others had a drastic change in expression. Apparently, this 9th stage realm cultivator was really enraged and displayed his strongest killing move. Would Lord Zi-Chun be able to block it? Hui Yen shouted, Deng Lepu, Zi-Chun is from the Alliance. If you kill him, you won't be able to explain yourself. Deng Lepu laughed heartily. I've already represented the Alliance to expel him. Next, I'll take his head back and defend the Alliance's dignity. I'll also tell the world that if you dare to kill someone from the Alliance, you must be prepared to be exterminated. The giant raised his long saber, and the aura between heaven and earth became even more terrifying. Zi-Chun also felt the threat of death, but he wasn't afraid. A light flashed in front of him, and the world annihilation bell appeared. It's that imitation. He snatched Luo's world annihilation bell and didn't expect to refine it himself. Exclamations came from all around. Hearing these voices, Zi-Chun was in a good mood. This was the effect he wanted. Actually, this was the real thing. The world annihilation bell flew into the sky and released infinite golden light. The divine patterns on it lit up one by one. Everyone had a misconception that this imitation was even more extraordinary in Zi Chen's hands. But it was understandable. If he wasn't powerful, how could he snatch this item from Luo's hands? So the bell rang. A golden ripple extended outwards. At this moment, the giant also slashed down. When the blade light met the golden ripple, it was immediately extinguished. Dang! The second bell rang, and the world annihilation bell became even brighter. A portion of the divine patterns in it had awakened. This golden shockwave became even more powerful and terrifying. It directly swept past Deng Lepu's body. The giant behind him immediately dispersed. A stream of blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth. He looked at Zi Chen in disbelief. Dang! Zi Chen was expressionless. The world annihilation bell rang for the third time. A destructive storm appeared in the surroundings, and there seemed to be numerous sharp blades revolving around it, drowning Deng Lepu's body. During this period, the ninth stage realm Deng Lepu was struggling and resisting. He even displayed his own strength to the maximum, but it was useless. As the storm swept past, there was only a skeleton left in front. Deng Lepu's life was extinguished. This was the real-world annihilation bell's power. The surrounding people were all in a state of shock. They obviously thought that when the imitation was in Zi Chen's hands, the power had increased tremendously. It must be that heaven and earth soul energy. Many people thought so in their hearts. Zi Chen walked up and kept the spoils of war. After that, he looked at Hui Yan and the others. All of you take care. No matter if Deng Lepu's words were true or not, Zi Chen had no intention to stay in the Pure Land Alliance. This alliance was too different from the alliance he had imagined. Sir is leaving? Vader looked at Zi Chen with eyes filled with reluctance. Zi Chen nodded. See you again. Hui Yan looked at Zi Chen's back view and said, Wait for Zhou Ho. Zi Chen stretched out his hand and interrupted Hui Yan's words. No need to trouble, sir. Based on my character, I will probably create more trouble next time. The alliance is really not suitable for me. Zi Chen left. He wanted to return to the 10,000 spirits, Pure Land first. With such a thing happening, the people from the alliance might have designs on his Pure Land. He had to go back and take a look. After Zi Chen left, Vader could no longer hold it in and angrily rebuked. This damned alliance, damned bastards! He had seen Zi Chen make a move and knew how great Sir Zi Chen's potential was. In the future, he was destined to become an overlord. Chapter 5299. Zi Chen returned to the 10,000 spirits Pure Land. Everything was normal. The alliance didn't take revenge, or rather, the revenge hadn't come yet. After returning, Zi Chen met Su Mengyao and told her some things. Then he took out the spirit rings and handed them to her. These were all Zi Chen's gains. After that, Zi Chen returned to his room to cultivate. The heaven and earth soul power caused Zi Chen's soul power to undergo a qualitative change. Under such circumstances, breaking through was much easier. After all, the others refined some of the remaining power and broke through one after another. What Zi Chen refined was his main body. It wouldn't be right if he didn't improve at all. Deng Lepu's death caused another shock in the alliance. Those who didn't get along with Zi Chen were clamoring to defend the alliance's dignity and kill Zi Chen as a warning to others. Zhou Ho was really angry this time. He angrily went to the meeting hall. There were a total of 13 people sitting in the hall. They represented the highest authority of the branch, and each of them was in the Sky Law realm. Zhou Ho directly questioned after entering, "Why did you send Deng Lepu to kill Zi Chen?" An old man said indifferently, "Zhou Ho, you're wrong. Zi Chen killed Orlando. We sent someone to call him back and ask about the situation. Isn't that right? But we didn't expect that Zi Chen would be so bold as to kill Deng Lepu. It seems that he really doesn't put the alliance in his eyes. Zhou Ho said angrily, "Did you send someone to call him back?" Deng Lepu asked someone to kill him as soon as he went. Zi Chen killed them to protect himself. Protect himself and kill him? When the old man heard this, he said, sarcastically, "Your joke is really funny. If he really wanted to protect himself, wouldn't he have run?" As he spoke, the old man's eyes became sharp. "Zhou Ho, as a member of the alliance, why are you siding with an outsider? Zi Qin is a member of the alliance. How is he an outsider?" Zhou Ho said angrily, "He's the same as us. He has contributed greatly to the alliance. Last time in the bone burial ground, this time in the pure training ground, Zi Qin contributed greatly." You don't have to be so agitated. When Zi Qin attacked Deng Lepu, he already said that he wasn't a member of the alliance. Therefore, he is no longer one of us. A cold light flashed in the old man's eyes. As a traitor who dared to kill a member of our alliance, he must die. You old thing, you really know how to pester endlessly. It was clearly Deng Lepu who used the name of the alliance to expel Zi Qin. Zhou Ho was so angry that he simply stopped looking at the old man. Obviously, he couldn't reason with him. He looked at the middle-aged man sitting at the head of the table and said, "Zi Qin has obtained the sole power of heaven and earth. His future achievements will definitely be limitless. You should know best what they are thinking." "Why didn't you stop them? Zhou Ho, you've gone too far," the old man said with a cold face. "So what if he is a genius? Our alliance wouldn't bother to nurture a person with bad conduct. Who knows, we might end up raising an ingrate." "That's right. He even killed his own people. No matter how talented he is, we don't want him. Not only do we not want him, but we also want to kill him. Because if such an ingrate grows up, who knows how many innocent people he will kill." Hearing what the others said, Zhou Ho completely exploded. "You all said that Zi Qin is so unbearable. What about Leonard? He's just a Dharma Soul reserve. But you all treat him like an ancestor. In the end, because he violated the Pure Lands rules, he was almost killed. If Zi Qin's conduct is bad, then what about Leonard? You all treat such a person like an ancestor. What are you all?" The leader frowned slightly. Zhou Ho's words were obviously too much. It was obvious that they had shed all pretenses. Impudent. As expected, all the elders were enraged. This was a slap to their faces in public. "What? Am I wrong?" Zhou Ho snorted coldly. "This time, I am in charge of going to the Pure Land. I arranged for Zi Qin to lead the team. Did I let Leonard go with him? That's because Zi Qin doesn't have the ability. If he doesn't have the ability, why did he chase Leonard away like a dog?" Zhou Ho said disdainfully. "Is it because he's your ancestor that you can't speak for him? So you want to ruin Zi Qin? Zhou Ho, you're impudent. Junior, you're so rude. How many days have you been an elder? Believe it or not, we'll vote to strip you of your elder status." Seeing that the two sides were about to fight, the middle-aged leader hurriedly waved his hand and said, "All right, let's not talk too much." The scene quieted down, but the elders were still glaring at Zhou Ho with venomous eyes. This junior was too impudent today. He didn't put the elders in his eyes at all. "Elders, you've indeed handled Zi Qin's matter inappropriately." The leader said, however, Zi Qin's departure from the alliance this time was indeed his intention. We shouldn't force it. Some people are dead. Zi Qin has left the alliance, and some people have achieved their goals. This matter is over. "Sir, how can we do that? Zi Qin defected this time. We didn't force him." The elder immediately said, "Right now, we should send people to capture him. If he dares to resist, kill him on the spot." The leader glanced at the elder. "Elder Ko, do you really want him dead that much?" "I don't want him dead," but before Elder Ko could finish his words, he was interrupted by the leader. "All right, let's do it this way. If you still don't like it, then send the annihilation law. However, This is only a personal grudge. We can't let it affect Zi Chen's Pure Land. With that, the leader left. In fact, he was annoyed by these old things, but there was nothing he could do. These people had been here for many years and were deeply rooted. It was difficult to shake them. Zhou Ho obviously didn't care. He looked at the elders and said coldly, "Send the annihilation law as you wish. However, if anyone dares to interfere, then don't blame me for being impolite." He looked at the elders. "You all have people you care about, right? If you break the rules, don't blame me for killing all the people you care about." Ignoring the elders' changing expressions, Zhou Ho continued, "I'm not Zichen. Your dirty words won't affect me. If you don't believe me, let's wait and see. Asterisk, 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 asterisk in the room." Zichen, who was cultivating, opened his eyes. Just a moment ago, he sensed some powerful auras enter his Pure Land. These people were all at the 9th level of the Annihilation Law realm. Zichen didn't have friends at this level, and this place was remote enough to attract people of this level. Therefore, it wasn't difficult to understand their intentions. Zichen's soul power had been probing these people. This was one of the abilities Zichen obtained after refining the soul power of heaven and earth. Although these people were of a higher level, they couldn't sense Zichen's soul power probing at all. After they entered the Pure Land, one of them pretended to ask questions, but in fact he was asking about Zichen's residence. After inquiring about it, they began to go deeper. During the day, they checked the time. At night, several black shadows went straight to Zichen's residence. Buzz! Suddenly, a light fell from the sky, sealing the space in the depths. No one knew what happened there. Apart from that seal, not even the slightest movement was heard. The next day, the sky brightened. Some people began to discuss what the energy vibration last night was. Right at this moment, the world trembled. Buzz! Rain fell from the sky. This was energy light rain. Lord broke through again. The people in the Pure Land were already used to the scene. At this moment, they were all quietly enjoying the shower of light rain. Chapter 50-300. Zichen broke through again. This was already many times that Zichen had broken through. The people who lived here were already used to it. Even their expressions didn't change much. Some people broke through and had smiles on their faces. But that was it. Only some people who came here for the first time started to shout as if they had never seen the world. Immediately, someone persuaded, "Don't make a fuss. This is already the standard for adults. You just came. You will be familiar with it after a while." "Does this happen often?" someone asked. "What do you think? Back then, this was only a level 1 Pure Land. Now it is already a level 6 Pure Land." Zichen broke through again, and this Pure Land also successfully promoted to a level 6 Pure Land. A Pure Land of this level, the power of heaven and earth contained in it was even denser. Those below level 6 of the Law Destruction realm could cultivate here, and the speed of breaking through would be much faster. Okon looked at the light rain between heaven and earth. The shock in his heart did not dissipate for a long time. He had also successfully broken through, but this was with the help of the light rain several times. The gap is getting bigger and bigger. He was incomparably emotional as he thought of not long ago. Indeed, not long ago, Zichen was only at the 9th level of the Spirit Technique realm. But how long had it been, and he was already at the 6th level of the Law Destruction realm? After advancing to the 6th level, a lot of resources were consumed. Zichen took out the token that All Might gave him and said that he could participate in the Law Soul test. Zichen's understanding of Law Souls was limited to that Luan Ao. The ancient talisman on the other party gave him a deep impression. He planned to give it a try. If he passed, he could use the resources of the Law Soul. But before that, he had to display the power of the World Destruction Bell to the greatest extent. In the room, 2 large golden bells floated in front of Zichen. On the real one, Light flickered, and the divine runes were faintly discernible. The imitation at the side, after many days of devouring, was already very dim. The power inside had been reduced by more than half. Zichen estimated that in another half a month, the mission of this imitation should be over, so he planned to wait before leaving. In the real-world destruction bell, a portion of the divine runes had awakened, but it was still far from fully awakening. Even if Zichen unleashed all of its power, it wouldn't even be 1,000th of its power. Now that he had reached this realm, he finally understood the true power of the Golden Bell. At the same time, Zichen felt a great deal of pressure. When the Divine Rune Clan was destroyed, the 5 great golden bells and the Path Sword were at their peak. This meant that the enemy was stronger. The 9th stage Dharma Destroyer disappeared without a trace. After that, no one else came to find trouble with Zichen. 10 days later, Vader arrived at the All-Spirits Pure Land. After Zichen sensed the aura of the other party, he left the room. In the room, the real Golden Bell was still plundering the power of the imitation. Zichen was grateful to Vader. If he hadn't spoken up, Spec wouldn't have been stopped by Zhou. This gave Zichen a chance to catch his breath, and after killing the 6th stage realm, he continued to break through to kill the last Spec. "My lord." When Vader saw Zichen, his face was filled with excitement. Zichen also smiled. "Why are you here?" The two found a restaurant, and Zichen took out the good wine from his hometown. When he saw Vader today, he treated him as a friend. Vader was obviously flattered, but he was even more excited because my lord recognized him. Vader first talked about the recent happenings in the Alliance, and finally said, "Before I came, Zhou asked me to tell you that he's sorry, my lord, for not doing a good job this time. But he also promised that no Heaven Dharma realm would attack you." Zichen smiled. "You call me my lord, but you call Lord Zhou by his name. You're quite bold." Vader smiled and scratched his head. "You came here today just to talk about this? Actually, there's no need. I'm very grateful to all of you." When Zichen came here, he was unfamiliar with the place and was suppressed everywhere. It was Vader, Zhou Huiyan, and the rest's help that allowed him to catch his breath and gain his current strength. "There's one more thing," Vader said embarrassedly. "We're planning to take part in the Dharma Soul test, and wanted to ask if my lord would like to go." "You?" Zichen was slightly startled. "Lan Shan and Angeli. They're waiting at the Pure Land next door. Why didn't they come together?" "They feel embarrassed. After all, my lord is no longer a member of the Alliance." When Zichen heard this, he laughed and scolded. "Good fellas, they're treating me like an outsider. Call them over and let them stay here for a few days. We'll go together then." When Vader heard this, he stood up excitedly. "I knew it. My lord isn't that kind of person." He hurriedly drank the wine in his bowl, and then left the Pure Land to look for the two. The reason why Zichen had to wait for a few days was because the real-world annihilation bell needed a few more days to completely refine the power of the imitation. After Lan Shan and Angeli arrived at the Pure Land, they stayed here. For the next few days, they walked on the streets and listened to some of Zichen's legendary deeds. When the two heard that the level of the Pure Land increased along with my lord Zichen's cultivation level, they were even more shocked. "It's true. I've experienced it personally before. The benefits are great." The three of them walked on the street, and 2 ladies came across them. Lan Shan's eyes immediately widened. He had never seen an immortal before, but he was willing to believe that these 2 must be fairies. Looking at the 2 beauties, Angeli felt even more ashamed of her inferiority. "Keep your eyes away. Those 2 are my lord's wives." Vader had stayed here before, so he naturally knew about Su Mengyao and Wang Xian. He stood at a distance and cupped his fists at the 2 of them. Su Mengyao and Wang Xian nodded at the 3 of them. "Wow, my lord is so handsome. Did he marry fairies?" Lan Shan murmured softly. He was completely stunned by the beauty of the two ladies. Vader smiled and said, "I've already said that my lord is a legend." In the room, the last trace of power of the imitation had been exhausted. Whoa! With a tremor, the sacred inscriptions in the imitation disintegrated completely. Only the material was left. But shortly after, the material also dispersed. The real one not only absorbed the power of the sacred inscriptions, but it also absorbed the power of the imitation material. To be more precise, the material contained the power needed by the World Annihilation Bell. Zi-Chan waved his hand, and the material that had lost its power completely turned into fine powder and dissipated. The real one in front of him shone with golden light. "From now on, I'll be using you." Zi-Chan smiled and stood up. From now on, the real one would be used as an imitation. After walking out of the room, Zi-Chan went to find Su Mengyao and bid her farewell. Su Mengyao was already used to Zi-Chen's comings and goings. She only told him to be careful and not to be impulsive. Zi-Chen nodded his head and left. Everyone was busy with their own things, so no one went out to send him off. Zi-Chen left the depths and transmitted a message to the 3 people in the inn. Chapter 5301. In the dark night, the blood moon hung high in the sky. The chill was oppressive. Zi-Chen sat on the green rock in a daze. The energy around him was dissipating, but it was not fast. Vader walked over. "My lord, why can't this meat survive outside the Pure Land?" He held a bone in his hand. Previously it was a beast leg, but after taking out this world, it disintegrated on its own. The rules don't allow it. Zi-Chen said without turning his head. This was not the first time he had experienced such a situation. Could it be that it goes against heaven and earth, so the rules don't allow it? Vader sat beside Zi-Chen. If that's the case, why do they still appear? Zi-Chen said, "To be precise, the rules have become incomplete. In the absence of rules, all flesh and blood left behind by non-living beings cannot survive. Bones are the only evidence left in this world." Wasn't it like this before? Vader was stunned. Lan Shan and Angeli walked over as well. Zi-Chen nodded. "In the past, this place was like the Pure Land." "My lord, how do you know?" The 3 of them were curious. They knew that Zi-Chen came from another world. In our world, there were some legends about the Immortal Spells world. But after coming here, we realized that it was different. Zi-Chen said, it should be that chaotic battle that changed the structure of the Immortal Spells world. So the wasteland used to be called the Immortal Spells world. This was the first time the 3 of them had heard of this. Vader asked again, since the rules of heaven and earth were complete in the past, can they be restored? Perhaps. Zi-Chen thought of the Dharma Breaker world. The rules of heaven and earth there had become complete from an incomplete state. With Zi-Chen around, there was almost no danger ahead. Along the way, Vader asked many questions. Luckily, Zi-Chan was knowledgeable and could answer them one by one. But when it came to some of the forces of the present day, Zi-Chen was not good at it. During this time, Vader talked about martial artists. He said that they were a very rare existence, even rarer than immortal spells. To become one of them, the core of the real body was the foundation. Just like how the immortal spirit clan was above the magical spirit clan, the immortal martial clan was above the martial cultivators. They had powerful fleshly bodies that could suppress the mantis demons. Compared to law souls, it was much more difficult to become a martial artist. Therefore, the number of martial artists was relatively small. When they were about to reach the area where the Soul Dharma Alliance was located, they encountered more and more people. These people were in groups of 3 to 5, and they were all here to take the test. Every 5 years, the Spell Spirit Alliance's test will be held. Every time, there will be a large number of participants. Vader explained while looking at those people. The Mage Spirit Alliance's test was held at a fixed location, and it was always held there. Following the crowd, they entered the examination grounds. At the entrance, no one came to check the qualification tokens. After entering the Pure Land, Zi-chan sensed a rich soul force. It was somewhat similar to the previous Pure Land trial. The power of the soul was very active here. Life-saving jade amulet for sale at a low price. Half an ancient talisman. Please inquire if you are sincere. All kinds of shouts could be heard. Almost all of them were doing business. Most of them were selling jade talismans. Jade talismans that were rarely seen were everywhere here. Of course, some were true while some were false. Zi-chan scanned with his soul force and discovered that half of them were half-finished products. Once these things were bought, not only would they not be able to save their lives, they might even take their lives. Wow, the jade talismans here are so cheap. Angeli listened to those shouts and looked at those jade talismans. Her eyes lit up. Take the life-saving jade amulet, for example. The price was only half of the outside world. Lan Shan smiled and said, "This is the Soul Dharma assessment ground. In the future, Dharma souls will be everywhere, so the jade talismans will naturally be much cheaper." Little brother, you're right. Do you want a life-saving jade amulet? It's only 1,000 magic crystals. It's very cheap. A vendor smiled and waved at Lan Shan. Lan Shan was a little tempted. Although he had a few life-saving jade amulets on him, no one would complain about having more of these things. It was the same for Angeli. Zi-chan coughed lightly. "Do you guys have few life-saving jade amulets on you?" Lan Shan said, "Sir, these things are." However, before Lan Shan could finish a sentence, he met Zi-chan's gaze and quickly shut his mouth. After walking past, Zi-chan transmitted his voice. "At least half of the things here are fake and have no effect." The three of them were stunned, obviously in disbelief. How could jade talismans be fake? Perhaps there will be many Dharma souls among these people in the future, but most of them are only half-baked. The three of them had absolute confidence in Zi-chan, so after hearing his words, they no longer looked at those things. However, Zi-chan's soul force landed in the surroundings, deliberately probing those jade talismans to see if he could pick up some leftovers. During this period of time, he could sense that there was a lot of soul power all around him, like threads after threads. It seemed that there were many people like him who wanted to pick up leftovers. After walking for a long distance, they did not find anything. It seemed that the people here were indeed smart. They followed the crowd to the depths of the area, where all the people who came to participate in the assessment gathered. There was a flat open area in front of them. At a glance, there was nothing unusual. However, in Zi-chan's perception, that place was crisscrossed with countless arrays, even the sky. Zi-chan closed his eyes and tried to draw the outline of the formation. Suddenly, his soul force appeared a trace of throbbing. It seemed that there was an inexplicable power in front of him that stirred his emotions. When he sensed again, he could not sense anything. He opened his eyes. There was doubt in his eyes. Could it be an illusion? Right at this moment, a figure appeared in front of him. The moment he appeared, he used a cold gaze to sweep across the entire place. "Everyone, listen up." The noisy voices in the surroundings immediately quieted down. "The assessment will begin in 3 days. You all stay here for 3 days first. If you leave during this period, you can only wait for the next time. After 3 days, the door of the Pure Land will close, and the assessment will officially begin." After speaking, the other party disappeared again. Is this a Dharma soul? It's really awe-inspiring. Isn't that so? Just listening to him speak is full of momentum. If only I can pass the assessment this time, my future achievements will be limitless. The quiet surroundings were immediately filled with whispers. Following that, everyone stayed here for 3 days. In order to deal with the trial 3 days later, many people bought jade talismans. Zi-chan even suspected that these 3 days were deliberately left behind by Dharma souls, people to let everyone buy these fake goods. Those businessmen almost wanted to describe this assessment as a place of death. 3 days later, a light appeared. An aura of the heavenly state swept out, like a soul storm blowing past. It made everyone's heart tremble. Chen also looked ahead. 5 people appeared in front. The leader was a heaven realm, and the other 4 were all annihilation realm. One of them was the one who appeared 3 days ago. Suddenly, Chen's expression changed slightly. He actually saw Luaneo. He leaned toward the back of the crowd. What bad luck. This is Lord Marzu. Luaneo walked forward and swept a glance at everyone. The main person in charge of this assessment. Greetings, Lord. Everyone cupped their fists and bowed. Marzu waved his hand, indicating that everyone need not be so polite. Luaneo looked at Marzu. Lord, now we? Marzu said indifferently, let's begin. The first round of the assessment is to test soul power first. Only those who are qualified can enter the second round. Luaneo immediately said, now, close the door of the Pure Land, the assessment will now. Suddenly his words stopped, because he saw a person he must kill. It's you. His gaze passed through the crowd and stared coldly at Chen. The nearby crowd immediately dispersed, and everyone looked at Chen. You're tuning in to the Thunderous YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.